Trent, kill the camera.
Negative, Sarge. It's rolling.
I said shut it down, now.
Policy says we keep it on. What's going on?
Hey, man, I ain't done nothing. Quiet. Hands stay behind you.
Sarge, lighten up. He's secured.
Breathe, man.
Stand back, Trent. Not while you're leaning on his throat. The camera's...
The night was silent except for the hum of the cruiser's engine. A routine patrol until dispatch sent the code. A possible disturbance at an abandoned motel on the edge of town. Officer Daniel Trent arrived alone. Bodycam rolling. The first voice he heard wasn't the suspect's, it was his supervisor's. "Turn off the camera." The command came sharp, quiet, and cold. Trent hesitated. Something in the tone felt wrong. He left it running. What that lens recorded in the next 15 minutes would end 3 careers, trigger a state investigation, and turn one officer into a whistleblower overnight. Every second mattered. Every word spoken was later analyzed frame by frame. And when the truth came out, it was clear. Trent's decision to keep that camera on changed everything. Officer Daniel Trent had been on the force for 7 years. Routine traffic stops, community patrols, late-night calls. He knew the rhythm of the streets better than anyone. But something about this night felt different. The air was thick with mist, and the streetlights flickered over the cracked asphalt. His bodycam hummed softly against his chest. Dispatch's message had been brief. Possible disturbance at 7th and Maple. Abandoned motel. Code 211. The motel had been vacant for years. Broken windows, graffiti across every wall, a rusting neon sign swaying in the wind. Yet something about it kept drawing calls. Vagrants, squatters, rumors of drug activity. Trent approached cautiously. Engine idling, lights on low, body cam recording. He radioed in. Dispatch, 214 on site. Motel at 7th and Maple. Checking for activity. A faint noise came from the far end of the parking lot. Footsteps, uneven, slow. He scanned the shadows, flashlight cutting through the dark. "Who's there?" Trent called out. No answer. Only the sound of the wind rattling the broken windows. He stepped out of the cruiser, boots crunching on gravel. The motel's main entrance was ajar, hanging on a single hinge. Trent's instincts told him something wasn't right. The place had been empty for years, yet he could hear breathing, low and uneven, coming from inside. Dispatch, possible occupant inside. "I'm entering." Inside, the smell hit him first. Stale cigarettes, mold, and a sharp chemical scent. The flashlight beam bounced over peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. The hallway was narrow, littered with debris. Doors on either side. Trent moved carefully, every step recorded. A sudden voice echoed from the far end of the corridor. Low, almost a whisper, but commanding. "Turn off the camera." Trent froze. The words came from the darkness ahead. Not a suspect, not a stranger. Someone inside the motel, but with authority in their tone. He didn't move. He didn't comply. The voice repeated, sharper. "Turn it off, now." Trent's hand rested on his holster, but he shook his head slightly. The camera stayed on. Something told him this wasn't a normal encounter. A figure stepped into the beam of his flashlight. The man was tall, lean, dressed in plain black, but with a badge clipped to his belt. Not local police. Not the suspect from the call. Trent's body stiffened. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Internal affairs," the man said. "You're not authorized to record this." Trent's heart pounded. "This is my call. My camera stays on." The man's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand." "Turn it off." "I understand perfectly. My camera stays on. Everything you do gets recorded." The tension was instant. Every word captured by the lens would later be scrutinized. The man in black didn't move immediately. He studied Trent like a predator assessing prey. Then another sound. Footsteps behind Trent. A second figure emerged from the shadows. Unlike the first, this one carried a small bag. Careful, deliberate movements. The body cam captured every detail. The glint of the bag under the weak motel lighting, the careful folding of its contents. Trent realized quickly that this wasn't about a routine inspection. Something was being hidden. "Step aside," the first man said. Authority in his tone, though Trent refused. He didn't step aside. He recorded. The second man moved closer, and Trent noticed a small envelope slip from the bag. Something inside it rattled faintly. A set of papers? Evidence? His instincts screamed, "This is not ordinary." Trent's radio was clipped to his vest. He keyed it. "Dispatch, I need backup. Suspected internal affairs activity inside motel, possibly compromising evidence. 2I-14 requesting immediate assistance." Static. Silence. The men froze. Their attention turned fully to him. The first man's voice lowered, almost a hiss. "You're making a mistake." Trent stayed firm. "I've made my choice. Camera stays on. Everything recorded." The second man leaned over the table, lifting the envelope slightly, scanning the room as if looking for a loophole. Trent's camera caught it all. The movement, the hesitation, the glance exchanged between them. Suddenly, the first man lunged, trying to knock the camera down. Trent backed up, holding it steady. The struggle was brief but intense, and the camera captured every frame. A loud crash echoed down the hall. Papers scattered. A chair tipped over. Trent's heart raced, but his focus never wavered. The camera remained recording, the lens capturing every reaction. The men realized they were trapped in a moment that could not be erased. Trent didn't know it yet, but those 15 minutes, fully recorded, would later be used to unravel decades of authority abuse. By the time Trent backed out of the motel, keeping a safe distance, he already knew the recordings would not only protect him, they would expose the truth. Every order, every intimidation tactic, every attempt to hide evidence was captured, and he had made the right choice. He had not turned off the camera. The next steps would be dangerous. Every officer involved in that motel encounter would realize what was recorded, and the ripple effect would be immediate. Trent's bodycam was no longer just a tool for accountability. It had become the line between truth and manipulation, between exposure and silence. The next morning, Officer Daniel Trent sat at his kitchen table, coffee cooling in a chipped mug. The motel footage replayed on his laptop, frame by frame. He had watched it repeatedly overnight, every movement, every word, every glare, stored in high-definition clarity. Nothing could be denied. The struggle, the envelope, the exchange between the two men, it was all there. He had not turned off the camera, and the camera had captured everything. He reviewed the audio. The first man's voice, the one demanding he turn off the camera, was calm, yet edged with menace. "You're making a mistake," he had said. The tone was chilling. Trent had felt it then, and listening again now, the weight of it pressed down on him. He keyed his radio and contacted Kellum. "Kellum, you awake?" he asked, a pause. Then, "Yeah. Why? You got the files?" "I do. Full recording from last night, every second intact. You need to see this." "I'm on my way," Kellum said. 20 minutes later, Kellum arrived. They sat side by side in Trent's living room, the laptop between them. He played the footage from the start, watching the motel's broken exterior, the flash of the flashlight, the tense confrontation. Kellum's eyes narrowed. "They're IA," Kellum muttered. "There's no mistake about it. Look at the badge on the belt. They're clearly identifying themselves as internal affairs, yet they tried to intimidate you into shutting down the camera." Trent nodded. "Exactly. And see that envelope? That's not standard procedure. That bag, the papers, it's evidence. Something they were hiding." Kellum leaned closer. "You know what this means? They were actively obstructing justice, trying to remove proof of whatever they were doing." Trent felt a chill. He had been a loyal officer, believing in the integrity of the department. Now, watching frame by frame, he realized he had uncovered a systematic effort to manipulate evidence, to intimidate officers, and to silence anyone who recorded the truth. "I need to make a copy," he said finally. "The department can't know I have this until it's safe. If they delete it, or if Harris or Croft find out—" His voice trailed off. Kellum nodded. "We need to be methodical. First, back up the footage to a secure offline drive. Then we figure out who else might be compromised. Don't touch the department network at all. No emails. No internal uploads. Trent did exactly that. He copied the footage onto 2 encrypted drives. One would be stored at Kellum's place, the other at a secure locker. The original remained on his body cam. With that secured, they began analyzing the footage. Every word, every movement, every gesture. It was meticulous, exhausting work. Yet the deeper they went, the clearer the pattern became. The first man, the commanding one, was clearly orchestrating the operation. He gave instructions that went beyond mere intimidation. The second man was executing those instructions, moving evidence, handling envelopes, and manipulating the scene with precise care. It was a controlled operation. They were professionals, and they had assumed no one would be watching. "This isn't about a single motel stop," Kellum said finally, rubbing his eyes. "This is systematic. Whoever's running this has been doing it for months, maybe years. They've got the network, the influence, and now we've got proof they tried to hide it from us." Trent's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hesitant, he answered. "Officer Trent." A low voice, careful, measured. "This is Special Agent Cole, Federal Oversight Unit. We've been monitoring internal affairs for irregular activity. We saw your footage. Keep it safe. Do not engage anyone from the department until we advise." Trent leaned back. "You've seen it? You know what happened last night?" "Yes," Cole replied. "And you did exactly the right thing keeping the camera on. The files are critical. We will coordinate next steps to ensure your safety and the integrity of the evidence." The call ended, leaving Trent staring at the ceiling. Federal involvement meant serious stakes. They weren't just watching. Internal affairs attempts to intimidate, obstruct, and erase evidence were now under federal scrutiny. But it also meant the department knew the federal agents would be looking. Harris and Croft would react. They needed a plan. That evening, Trent and Kellum went back over the motel footage. Slow-motion playback revealed subtle cues they hadn't noticed in real time. The first man frequently glanced at a small device clipped to his belt, some kind of communication tool. The second man carefully maneuvered the envelope into the shadows each time Trent's flashlight passed over it. There were small adjustments to the motel environment. Doors closed just enough to obscure view from certain angles. Subtle lighting. Manipulations, all designed to hide evidence from casual observation. "These people are methodical," Kellum said. "They've planned for someone like you to show up, but they didn't count on your camera capturing everything." Trent exhaled slowly. "We need to identify every person in this footage, link them to their roles, and ensure federal oversight gets every frame. If anyone deletes a second, we have backups." Kellum nodded. "And we keep ourselves safe. Harris will be looking for us once he realizes the footage exists." They made a list. Surveillance photos, badges, bodycam timestamps, envelope contents, all secured offline. Step by step, they reconstructed the events. Every movement, every order, every attempt to intimidate Trent was documented, time-stamped, and cataloged. By the end of the night, Trent leaned back in his chair, exhausted. But for the first time since arriving at the motel, he felt in control. He had preserved the truth, and he had learned one critical fact. The moment he chose to keep the camera on, he had changed everything. The morning after their exhaustive review, Trent and Kellum met at a secure location. The stakes had shifted overnight. The footage wasn't just a record of an encounter, it was evidence of a deeper, systemic problem. Internal Affairs wasn't policing the department, they were manipulating it. Trent's body cam had captured what no one had ever imagined. Officers in positions of oversight actively obstructing justice, hiding evidence and intimidating those who refused to comply. Trent sipped coffee quietly, eyes on the encrypted drive in front of him. "We need to trace the envelope," he said. "Where did it come from? Who authorized it? If we can link it to their network, we expose the whole operation." Kellum nodded. "And we need more than just one motel incident. This has to be part of a pattern. If we show isolated cases, it's easier for them to dismiss. But if we map it, connect all the dots, they're finished. They began combing through records. Public complaints, internal memos, previous disciplinary reports. Patterns emerged quickly. Officers were routinely instructed to mislabel evidence, delay filing reports, or manipulate case documentation. Complaints about missing items, lost files, and unexplained deletions weren't random. They were part of a carefully orchestrated system. Kellum paused on a digital folder. Look at this. Multiple reports list an officer being ordered to verify evidence outside normal protocol. That language matches the instructions from last night. Trent leaned in. So this isn't about intimidation. It's about control. They create a narrative, manipulate evidence, then enforce it with fear. And anyone who refuses gets removed or silenced. They realized the implications. If the federal investigation didn't act fast, those involved could bury the evidence, destroy the footage, and rewrite the records. Trent's bodycam was the only thing standing in the way. Later that day, Trent received a text from an unknown number. It contained a single image, a snapshot from a departmental security camera showing Harrison Croft entering a secured evidence room. The timestamp matched the night of the motel encounter. There was a bag, identical to the one in Trent's footage, being moved by hand. He showed Kellum immediately. They're still moving evidence. Even after last night, they're cleaning up trails, replacing bags, removing anything that could link back to them. Kellum frowned. That's bold. They're taking huge risks. They think they're untouchable, Trent said. But the camera caught everything. Every move, every hand, every label switch. If we compile this, it's irrefutable. They decided to set a trap. Trent would return to the department under the guise of compliance while continuing to document activities outside the official network. Kellum would monitor remotely, providing secure communication and backup. Every interaction, every order, every discrepancy would be recorded on the encrypted drives. The following night, Trent returned to the precinct. He entered through a side door to avoid cameras, wearing plain clothes. His body cam was hidden under a jacket, recording audio and video. Every step was deliberate. Every glance measured. Inside, Harrison Croft were already there, reviewing paperwork. Trent kept his distance, observing their behavior. They discussed missing evidence, altered reports, and upcoming audits, all in the clear knowledge that their actions were illegal yet seemingly untouchable. Trent captured it all. Every word, every gesture. When they left the room, he quietly approached the evidence locker. He couldn't access it fully, but he noted the arrangement, numbers, and tags. He also recorded anomalies, labels that didn't match dates, seals that were tampered with, and files that were unaccounted for. It was meticulous work. Every movement had to be precise. If they discovered Trent was recording, it could escalate into immediate danger. 2 hours into the operation, Trent noticed a new figure, a uniformed officer he didn't recognize, carrying a small case. The man paused near the security desk, glanced around, then walked toward the same evidence locker Trent had observed. Kellum's voice came softly through the encrypted comms. That's not usual. Document everything. Follow the pattern. Trent stayed back, recording. The new officer moved with care, checking labels, adjusting bags, placing the case in a separate compartment. It was deliberate, pre-planned. He realized that the internal affairs corruption extended beyond Harrison Croft. There was a network, a shadow network within the department, ensuring evidence manipulation continued without oversight. Trent exhaled slowly. The scope was massive. They weren't just covering isolated incidents, they were controlling the narrative of justice itself. By the time Trent exited the precinct, the footage was complete. He had every interaction, every movement, and every violation documented. Every frame told a story. A network of officers using authority to manipulate outcomes, cover misdeeds, and intimidate anyone who interfered. Back at the safe house, Trent and Kellum reviewed the recordings. Every anomaly, every irregularity, every altered label was logged and cataloged. They knew they were building a case powerful enough to bring the entire corrupt network down. Kellum looked at Trent. You realize what this means, right? They'll stop at nothing to bury this, Trent nodded. Then we have to be faster. Federal involvement, public release, everything documented. This footage isn't just proof, it's leverage, and we're holding it tight. As they worked into the early hours, Trent realized one undeniable truth. The body cam had done its job. The network's attempt at secrecy had failed. Every action, every manipulation, every threat had been captured. The moment he refused to turn off the camera, he had shifted the balance. The question now wasn't whether the truth would come out, it was how far the shadow network would go to stop it. By dawn, the city was waking up to routine. Patrol cars rolled out, radios crackled, and officers signed in like any other day. But beneath the surface, the department was cracking. Rumors were spreading. Quietly, nervously, someone had footage. Someone had gone against orders. And Internal Affairs was nervous. Officer Daniel Trent sat in his car outside the federal building, the encrypted drive on the passenger seat. He hadn't slept. His hands gripped the wheel tighter than he realized. This was the moment everything led to. The decision to go public, to hand over the recordings, and to trust someone outside the department with what he had uncovered. He checked his phone. A single message blinked from Special Agent Cole. Arrive through lower entrance. No uniform. Bring the original file. Trent took a deep breath, stepped out, and locked the car. The air was cold, sharp, clean. He walked inside. 2 agents met him at the door. They didn't talk. They guided him down a long hallway lined with frosted glass and quiet, humming lights. At the end sat Cole. Older, calm, and precise. "Officer Trent," Cole said. "We've reviewed portions of your footage. What you have is substantial. You understand the risk?" Trent nodded. "I understand. But the camera recorded the truth. I'm not letting it vanish." Cole motioned toward the desk. "Place the drive here," Trent did. Cole connected it, entering a password sequence only he knew. The footage began to play. The motel, the confrontation, the envelope, the faces, the struggle. Every moment, crisp, undeniable, time-stamped. Cole leaned forward. "This is enough to open multiple investigations. You've exposed corruption at a level that's been insulated for years." Trent said nothing. He stared at the screen as his own voice echoed back. "My camera stays on." Cole turned the screen slightly, revealing something Trent hadn't seen. "Watch this," he said. It was enhanced bodycam data. Audio filters, frame restoration, frame-by-frame reconstruction. They isolated background voices. What surfaced made Trent's stomach tighten. A third voice, one that hadn't been clear before, a woman's. Calm, distant, issuing instructions through an earpiece. "Secure the envelope. Make sure it never leaves the site. If he resists, neutralize him." Kellum, who had joined them quietly, leaned in. "So it wasn't just Harrison Croft," Cole nodded. "No, that's Captain Avery. She oversees IA's Special Compliance Unit. She's been running unauthorized operations for at least 3 years." Trent's pulse quickened. Avery had been one of the most respected names in the department. Every new officer learned her procedures. Every internal review bore her signature. Cole continued. "You've done something few manage, Officer Trent. You caught the system watching itself." That afternoon, federal agents executed coordinated warrants across multiple precincts. Evidence lockers were sealed. Hard drives were confiscated. Officers were separated and questioned. The network began to fracture under pressure. Inside the department, silence hung like a storm. Those who had enforced orders without question now avoided eye contact. Computers were seized, phones wiped. The sense of control Harrison Croft had once wielded evaporated overnight. Trent returned only once, under escort, to clear his desk. He moved quietly, the corridors empty, the air heavy with tension. As he passed the operations board, he noticed the week's call schedule. His name had been erased. Not crossed out, deleted entirely. Kellum waited outside. "They'll never forgive you," he said. Trent shrugged. "They don't have to." They drove to a small press building near downtown where Cole was waiting again. The footage was already in evidence, protected under federal seal. But a separate version, a full, unedited, watermarked copy, was being prepared for public release. Cole's team had one goal: transparency. Every department that operated with taxpayer authority had to be accountable. Every officer had to understand that the camera's purpose wasn't protection for command. It was protection for truth. When the footage went public that night, the reaction was immediate. News outlets broadcast the confrontation in full. Viewers saw every frame: the order to turn off the camera, the physical attempt to disable it, the hidden envelope, and Trent's refusal. Public outrage followed. Protests outside precincts. Questions from state officials. Audits initiated across multiple divisions. Within 48 hours, 3 officers resigned. 1 was suspended. Captain Avery was placed under federal investigation. The department's leadership held a press conference, trying to maintain composure under a storm of scrutiny. They promised reform. They promised transparency. But for those watching closely, the message was clear. One officer's refusal to comply had exposed the machinery of corruption that thrived in the shadows. Weeks later, Trent sat in Kellum's living room, the television muted, the two of them surrounded by boxes of files. The department had changed. Federal oversight teams were stationed permanently inside. Officers were being retrained. But trust was gone. Kellum looked over. You could have walked away, you know. No one would have blamed you. Trent nodded slowly. If I had turned off that camera, everything would have stayed hidden. No one would have believed a word of it. Kellum smiled faintly. You understand what that means, right? You didn't just save your name. You changed how this department works. Trent stared at the bodycam sitting on the table. It was scratched, dented, worn from years of patrol. But the lens still shone clean. The camera doesn't lie, he said quietly. It never does. People do. He reached over, picked it up, and placed it in a drawer. He didn't need it anymore, not for now. What it recorded would echo far beyond him. 2 weeks later, a message arrived from Cole. Simple, direct, unsigned. Good work. More units requesting review. You'll be contacted for advisory. And Trent, keep your camera ready. You'll need it again soon. Trent closed the message. He looked out the window at the street below. Quiet, ordinary, unremarkable. For now, peace. But he knew it wouldn't last. Cameras kept rolling. The system never slept, and somewhere out there, another voice would one day say, "Turn off the camera." But this time, every officer who watched his footage would know the answer. The truth doesn't hide forever. Officer Trent's story reminded millions that silence protects corruption, but the camera protects justice. For those who wear the badge, accountability is not optional. It's the job. If you want to learn how bodycam footage shapes real cases, how to file public access requests, and how to recognize manipulation in official reports, check the free guide linked below. It's your right to know. Stay alert. Stay informed. The next story is already recording.